Welcome back to Defense News Weekly. I'm Diana Stancy. It's AUSA time, that time of year the military's biggest force gathers for its largest conference in the nation's capital to talk about what's ahead for the force and wheel out the next-gen tech. We snagged a lot of the leading lights of the Army for updates on the big topics facing soldiers, leaders, and defense industry partners, and we'll kick it off with a big one. Army Secretary Christine Wormuth sat down with land warfare reporter Jen Judson for a conversation about how global turmoil impacts the Army and how it shapes the way the force evolves itself to meet threats. Have a look.
Wanted to dive in and talk first about the threat environment. You're seeing it change. We're watching in Ukraine, we're watching what's going on in the Middle East. What are some of your big takeaways in terms of how the threat is evolving over this past year and how that's influencing some of the things you're looking at?
Well, I think a couple of things really, Jen, are most notable to me. The first is sort of the number of challenges that we have simultaneously. You know, last year when we were here, we were probably focused significantly on what was going on with Ukraine. Now, obviously, the CENTCOM theater is once again, very busy and very volatile. And I think the other thing that's become more clear since a year ago is what I would call the sort of occasional pragmatic cooperation between Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran. Again, not all four all together all the time, but in different combinations. I think all four of those countries have an interest in making life difficult for the United States. That's one thing they share. And I think that dynamic has become more evident in the past year.
How are those shifts in threats and adversary capabilities influencing how the Army prioritizes its modernization efforts? Are some of those shifting or causing a rethinking or reshuffling of focus when it comes to modernization plans, or even how the Army will build formations in the future?
I think what it's really emphasizing to me, again, is particularly with the flat top line, we have just got to do everything possible to get the most bang for the buck. I think, any of our individual modernization portfolios still make sense, are still relevant, but it's about finding opportunities to bring programs to the left where we can. It's about pushing ourselves even harder to identify perhaps programs of record of a few years that maybe aren't as purpose-built for the future, and making tough decisions about those.
Yeah, and we've seen that, in very recent history here with the budget, you had to pivot on the extended range artillery cannon system. That obviously that requirement isn't going away. You're finding other solutions. You've canceled the future attack reconnaissance aircraft as you reassess what aviation is going to look like and the balance of unmanned and manned. So we're seeing that. What are some of your observations when it comes to the Transforming in Contact initiative that you and the chief have been spearheading over the past year, and how that is helping to inform building formations as well?
Yeah, I think I like to put Transforming in Contact into context, and we're really looking at Army transformation in three different timeframes. We have the sort of beyond the FIDIP, looking, to 2040, and we're doing a lot of great work with our warfighting concept. We have sort of that middle time period, which is the 5-year defense program, sort of 3 to 7 years from now. And then we have the immediate time period of the next year or two. And to my comment about our flat top line and wanting to get the most bang for the buck, what we're using Transforming in Contact to do is really help us figure out, with things that we have right now, perhaps in small numbers, or with opportunities that commercial off-the-shelf systems present, how can we experiment with that, see which systems are promising, maybe make adjustments to our MTO, our tables of equipment, and also learn about new tactics, perhaps, to use some of these capabilities in a different way.